Coming up on Currently, Beth Milligan has City of Traverse City updates along with Munson news and an expansion of the Brown Bridge quiet area, plus updates on road construction and more. That's ahead on Currently. Welcome to Currently, where we discuss some of the top local stories directly from the journalists who are covering them. I'm your host of this hyper-local podcast, Crystal Frost. And this podcast was recorded on Thursday, June 4th. The Tigers are 25-38. Meanwhile, your Traverse City Pittsfitters are 4-6 on the season so far. Support for Currently comes from West Shore Bank. When you choose West Shore Bank, you're not just choosing a bank, you're choosing a partner committed to the well-being of our community. And you can visit them today on 8th Street in Traverse City or at westshorebank.com. Welcome to Beth Milligan, head writer for Traverse City Ticker, my friend, and it is your birthday today.
It's my birthday.
The day you were born.
Yes, I'm 22 years old today.
You're 22 years old. You've only been doing the news for 1 year.
Yeah, a lot has happened in the last year.
You've written 175 million stories in your 1 year of journalism.
Yeah, I mean, add maybe two decades to that. We'll be close.
Well, you don't have to give away your age at all, Beth. But I am really happy that you're here and choosing to spend your birthday with us today.
I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
I love that. So speaking, we're going to talk a little bit. I just have to ask you a little bit about your birth.
Okay.
We're going to open it right up with that.
Picture it, Cicely.
You were born in Alpena.
I was, Alpena General Hospital.
And you were a resident of Alpena for a few years, like 3?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then moved to Traverse City.
Moved to Traverse
City.
Any interesting things about the day you were born that you know?
No, I know that Angelina Jolie and I share a birthday.
Well, that makes sense.
You know what? Two incredible Geminis.
Yes.
Have very similar career tracks. That's the main thing I know.
Yeah.
I also do know, this is a nice nod to our friend Benny, Benjamin Button, as I sometimes call him. Ben Whiting, born in the USA.
Yeah.
Bruce Springsteen album came out June 4th, 1984 on my birthday. I share a birthday with that album.
Well, that's a lot.
And I was born in the USA. So I feel like it was meant to be. Yeah,
I love that. So those are some really cool things about your birthday. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think everyone should know one fun fact about the day you were born.
I'd love it to be the boss. That's a good one.
That's great. We are going to get into some city updates. The city had so much going on this week that you had 2 stories you had to write about it.
I did. I mean, multiple stories today.
Multiple stories.
Brown Bridge we'll talk about is a city story as well. But they had a very packed commission agenda on Monday. So the first story we ran earlier this week was kind of previewing several things on the agenda, and then I did watch the meeting, so I have updates on those. One that I think, will be good for residents to keep an eye on, this will be a pretty significant project in downtown over the next year, is a major kind of reconstruction project in the Boardman Avenue, State Street, Cass Street area.
Oh.
So there is actually a brownfield plan that covers that area kind of around the Park Place Hotel.
Okay.
So there's brownfield funding available for some of these infrastructure updates. The main thing is the water main in that corridor needs to be upgraded from a 6-inch main to a 12-inch main. So that's a big project.
They're going to double that main.
Going to double that main, underground infrastructure, and then also some sewer replacement in that area, particularly all along the Washington Street area. While they're doing that utility work, they had already had in the capital improvement plan also to do some road reconstruction work on those roads. So, the thinking from city staff, I think logically so, is if we're going to go in there and tear everything up and pull out the water main, this is the time to do the road too.
Yes.
So commissioners this week approved a contract for preliminary design work for that project, as well as some geotechnical engineering. The main thing that we know we've talked on the show before that will be part of the discussion of this project is State Street going to remain 2-way or is it going to go back to 1-way traffic?
You're going to open up a whole can. But
So that still has to be decided. The city has not made a final decision on that. The design work can start now, so the commissioners approved that because they can start working on the underground.
Sure.
They can do surveying, the things that they'll need to get ready for this project. In the next, couple months, though, commissioners will need to decide what 2-way or 1-way State Street is going to be. So then the road reconstruction will be planned accordingly to go with that traffic flow. I will say that the city's Complete Streets Committee, which is a new committee that was just formed this spring after the city adopted a complete streets policy that basically requires the city to always look at ways to include multimodal, bicycle, pedestrian amenities, things like that. That committee, as kind of one of the first main things that they're doing, is looking at this issue. They're looking at the cost for keeping State Street two-way, looking at the cost for going back to one-way, because there are improvements they would have to make either way. Okay. And then if they decide, either way, they'll make a recommendation to the city commission. The city commission has the final say. If it does stay two-way, I will just say, again, they'll plan this as part of the road reconstruction project. I do know some of the things that we've talked about in the show or that people in the community have complained about the way some of the intersection turns work, some of the stacking in that corridor are likely to be improvements that may be incorporated into the new design as the road is reconstructed. We might be able to address some of the problem areas that we've seen with the two-way if it stays that way.
Okay. If it stays that way.
If it stays that way. It could also go back to one way. That's a possibility. I will say the experts who have been hired by the city, different contracting firms that have looked at this, have recommended keeping the two-way flow and potentially even changing some portions, not the main portion, but some portions of Front Street to kind of create a contiguous two-way traffic flow downtown. That would be in the future.
That's in the future.
Not on the table now. Don't start freaking out. Front Street's not on the table right now, but maybe in the future. But it is ultimately the city commission's decision.
Yeah, it definitely is. And do you have an opinion on that? Do you like two-way? Do you like...
it's interesting. I'm always used to not giving my opinion as a journalist.
Exactly.
No, but it's okay. In this case, I'll just say I tend to... I spend a lot of time downtown. I do tend to think it works better. I feel the same way about roundabouts. I kind of am a data-driven person. Yeah. And I have certainly seen some of the problems with State Street being two-way. We have to address some of those intersections with turning. It can be impossible to take a left sometimes in the summer. So if that is addressed, I think that functionality will be a lot better. The data is just true. Two-way streets tend to work better for traffic flow, just like roundabouts do, even if people don't like them.
You and your data.
But we'll see. We'll see.
What else is going on with the city? In this story, you talked a little bit about the Carnegie building.
Yeah, just a quick update on that, because folks know, this spring there's been some back and forth about whether Crooked Tree Art Center is going to stay in that building. The Traverse Area District Library had also applied to be in that building. Will they share the building? So Crooked Tree has a lease extension through October of next year, so they have more time. So Benjamin Marantat, the city manager, just gave a quick update this week that he has had multiple now meetings that have had a professional facilitator help lead them with both of those organizations and staff. They both Tattle and Crooked Tree signed a joint letter asking to have some time through September to keep those facilitated conversations going to see if there is a workable joint occupancy agreement. Because Crooked Tree's in there through almost the end of 2027, everyone sort of said, we don't need to rush anything. We got time. So they're going to be working on that through the fall. And then a couple other quick updates from the meeting on Monday. Commissioners are in the process of finding a law firm that will become the city's new legal counsel. So Lauren Tribalot, longtime city attorney, is stepping down at the end of June. So rather than hire another in-house employee, the commission is looking to hire a firm.
Oh, wow.
Which is not uncommon. Yeah. Grand Traverse County has a firm. Many municipalities do. Sometimes when you get bigger, like the city is getting, you need a firm that has a deep bench and kind of different expertise in different areas. So they looked at 5 firms who had applied this week. They kind of narrowed it down to 3 I think they're interested in interviewing, and those interviews are probably going to happen next week. Okay. So we're getting closer to that. And then the final thing was commissioners approved a couple zoning changes on Monday, which included auto uses like car washes, drive-thrus, gas stations will now in the city be a special land use permit instead of a use by right. That means projects like the Tommy's car wash that we had recently, which was a bit contentious on the corner of Front and Garfield. That project got withdrawn, but it sparked this conversation. So going forward now, if we have a use like that, there's more public hearings, a longer process. The city has more control.
Because I recall, as you covered that story, that the Traverse City commissioners, for the most part, said that they had to approve it because there was
planning commission. Yes, because it was allowed. It was a use for that property. By right. Now, Tommy's ended up withdrawing their application because the city was looking at these zoning changes and they probably wouldn't have been able to break ground in time and they would have had to go through this process anyways. But it just now allows the city to have more control going forward.
God, it's all about that zoning. It really is.
Zoning is important, and people always think it's boring, but it dictates a lot of what can happen.
It really does. Get in the zoning. Speaking of, we are going to your next story about the City Commission considering short-term rental caps. This is possibly big news for a lot of people who live in the city.
Yeah. So this was a discussion also from Monday's meeting. The commission was getting its first quarterly update from staff on its OKRs. Now, if you don't know what that means, it's objectives and key results. So the city recently had adopted a new strategic action plan.
Oh, right.
It was, long public process. It's kind of as like, this is what the community wants to see the city commission working on. These are kind of going to be the priority areas. And then the OKRs are sort of a list of targeted goals from that plan. Like, how do we actually start implementing this plan? So the update from staff was kind of getting some input from commissioners because they have a long list of goals and you can only do so much at a time. Where are your priorities of what we should be working on as staff? So one of them was short-term rentals. And the staff were talking about the fact that when the public was giving input for the plan, STRs came up a lot.
Yeah.
People have strong opinions about vacation rentals. And there was, I think the word that staff uses is a level of boldness. The public really wanted to see the city address short-term rentals. So the Planning Commission last year had come up with a proposal, and the City Commission never really moved forward with it, kind of stalled for a while. It was in review. They're going to bring this proposal back and look at it closer. And that would sort of limit how many short-term rentals can be in a building based on where that building is located. So different zoning districts have different percentages.
Okay.
So like in one zoning district, for example, the number might be 25%. That means that no more than 25% of the units in that building can be short-term rentals.
Okay.
So a lot of these different districts in the downtown area and the outlying area have caps right now. These would bring these down quite a bit. So it essentially restrict the number of short-term rentals we can have in different neighborhoods.
So what happens to existing short-term rentals?
Typically, those are grandfathered in. Anytime you do a zoning change, same thing, the city was also looking, for example, at riparian rules this week, waterfront rules.
Right.
When those change, if you have an existing dock, for example, it becomes what's called a legal non-conforming use. You can have it, you just typically can't expand it or, do some major changes to it.
Right. So if we're looking at this, we're really looking at, new short-term rentals coming online.
Yes. And also potentially if, they can, there can be attrition over time.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So sometimes an owner will sell the building and then, licenses can, there can be attrition that way. But yes, typically, it's trying to cap because what we've seen is, and especially in some of the commercial areas where you allow 100%, the hotel resort district is one that would probably say because it's meant to be for
short
units
term.
like this,
Yeah.
But it's just I think a great example in the picture in my story is of Gillis Street, which is over near North Peak Brewing Company. You've got that long row of short-term rentals.
And nobody's there.
And, or Trailside 45 is another property. You do see some really high concentration of short-term rentals. So the idea is trying to require building owners to have at least some of their property for longer-term rentals, so housing stock for the city.
Yeah, that's very good. So ultimately, though, this is something that they had talked about last year. It kind of stalled. Now the City Commission is bringing it up again.
Yeah, as part of the strategic plan. And they also talked about other things they're going to be looking at. Staff are going to be looking at the city's zoning ordinance to look at childcare rules to see if there's anything that they can lift to make it easier for people to have childcare opportunities in the city, talking to employers about that. That's a big one. And the other one is they're going to be looking at housing barriers, specifically probably parking regulations, because sometimes if the parking is tricky, it's hard to add more housing.
Yeah.
And also relaxing the rules for ADUs, accessory dwelling units, so allowing more of those kind of granny flats, the garage structures kind of thing.
Love those.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going to live someday. I won't even know you. I'll just move into your ADU.
Yeah, it'll be great.
You're not my grandma. I'm like, I am now.
So those are all in progress. Those are things that we'll see more discussions on in the coming month. They're not going to be overnight.
Okay.
The other thing I just want to flag as we wrap up on this one is Benjamin Marantet also told commissioners he's working with other vacation communities across Michigan right now to kind of have a coalition approach to push the legislator to change the law in Michigan that would allow, essentially right now, communities can't, like the tax that the Visitors Bureau collects.
Oh, the
you know
bed
what
taxes.
I mean? Yes, they go back, typically into tourism promotion, and there's been a big push to try to change it so that visitors are paying some kind of fee that goes directly to infrastructure, and it kind of helps relieve the burden that the residents are, we're doing the upkeep for our sewers and roads, but tourists are impacting that.
Yeah, we got to go from 6-inch pipes to 12-inch pipes.
Got to change those pipes. So that's also in process, but there is a movement to try to get that law changed in Michigan.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how that pans out because, I think a lot of people are like, why do we keep advertising, Traverse City Tourism continuing to advertise? Well, it's a law that those bed taxes have to go back, into tourism.
Right. And so there's a lot of ways that could change, but that's kind of in the works.
That's where it is right now. All right. We are going to come back with more stories from Beth Milligan. But right now, a word for our lead supporter, West Shore Bank. And if you are looking for a checking account that does more for you, I want you to look at West Shore Bank. They've introduced new checking options designed to fit the way that you live and the way you spend. It's called a Shoreline High Yield Checking Account. It's where your money has the opportunity to work harder, earning more value just by using your account the way you already do. And with Shoreline Cashback Checking, you can get rewarded for everyday debit card purchases because, spending money should come with benefits. That's what I always say. Both accounts offer convenient digital banking, easy account access, and features that help you stay in control of your finances without unnecessary hassle. Plus, you're going to enjoy that personalized service of a community bank. That is West Shore Bank. They've been here for generations. They're supporting the people and the businesses in our community. If you're ready to choose the checking account that fits your lifestyle, visit westshorebank.com or stop by any West Shore Bank branch to learn more and get started today. Terms, conditions, and qualifications apply. Third-party data rates may apply. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. All right, and we are back. We're going to go right into more news, hot news on your birthday, Beth. This is some big news with the expansion of the Brown Bridge Quiet Area. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so this is one I think many people will have heard about, but the city officially closed on the acquisition of 528 acres of land next to the Brown Bridge Quiet Area. So voters, had a couple years ago had approved using this funding from the Brown Bridge Trust Fund, which we have in Traverse City for funding, to create a match with a state grant and also a partnership with the Grand Traverse Regional Land Conservancy to acquire this property. So the city is acquiring it for a little over $3 million. So now the Brown Bridge Quiet Area is going to be expanding from about 1,500 acres to more than 1,800 acres of public land, which is really exciting for the public to have more opportunities. I will note because of the partnership with the state grant, that means there will be some hunting access on the property now. There are going to be, new trails and new areas to access. I'll just note that, and people, if they, go to the traverseticker.com, we have a map so people can see kind of where the area is. It's essentially it borders Brown Bridge Quiet Area on one side and Camp Graylick on the other. So it's kind of sandwiched in there. And I will just also note that it's not encouraged for people to access the property yet.
Right.
The city owns it, but this happens anytime there's a new conservancy property. You have to kind of get it ready to be safe for the public to access. So the city said the public can expect this summer, within 90 days, a soft opening of an expanded trail system there. There will be access to the property through some existing trailheads along Ranch Rudolph Road and from Camp Graylick. Right now, there's not a dedicated public access point, so just know that that's coming. But they're going to be doing some surveying, fencing, and then next year there will be a new trailhead on Hobbs Highway beginning in the spring of 2027. That will have parking, restrooms, a universally accessible trail, and a viewing platform overlooking Spring Lake. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
My husband's family has a cabin over in that neck of the woods, but not quite. It's like Williamsburg, but anytime I hear quiet area, I think sweet. And an expansion That's fantastic. More trails. We love it.
Yeah, it's
Very
beautiful.
cool.
I got,
But don't go there yet.
Don't go there yet. Just give it a little time. I mean, the city, I'm sure, like later this summer, once the kind of the soft opening of the trails is, as we'll share that update with folks, and just let them get it ready, and then we'll all be able to enjoy it.
I wonder, like, how they choose where where to put in the trails.
Yeah, I mean, typically, that's a lot of work with like conservation and trail experts to make sure you're not, obviously don't want to trample any sensitive species or plants or anything like that. You don't want to go into wildlife areas where like maybe sensitive species are breeding or whatever. So, and also it has to be like, typically a buildable, good terrain for a trail. You want to have a little bit of challenge without being too steep. So
it's not just Christal out there with a machete. It's like, built a trail, guys. No,
that would be one approach, but probably a little more.
I would make it about 5 feet. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not good at that. Let's move over to another story that you wrote. This story came out on Wednesday, and it's about how the nurses at Munson have reached a contract agreement. At least it's kind of tentative right now, right?
Yeah, it still has to go through the official vote. But they, the nurses have been working without a contract since March 10th, when their contract expired. They had a kind of marathon 20-hour bargaining session that ended early Wednesday morning with a tentative agreement between Munson Healthcare and the Nurses Association. And so both Munson and the Nurses Association did put out statements confirming that they had kind of reached this tentative agreement. Munson declined to really share the details of the agreement because it hasn't been officially confirmed yet. The Nurses Association did sort of say that there were some broad things they could talk about. They said it includes competitive wage increases. They said there were guardrails around AI and technology.
Interesting.
And protected retirement contributions by the employer, by Munson. So both sides seemed, expressed excitement and being pleased that this agreement has been reached. It will go to the nurses for a ratification vote on Tuesday and Wednesday. So we should know probably later in the day on Wednesday that it's been ratified. Okay. And if so, then we'll have a new agreement in place.
Does it feel like, though, this seems to happen annually almost, where it's like, okay, the contract is going to expire, or maybe it's a 2-year contract? I just feel like they go into these negotiations after the contract expiration often.
Yeah, I mean, the contracts aren't typically extremely long term. There was a practice strike that the nurses had earlier this spring, and we had been reporting on that, and the Nurses Association had mentioned that they were seeking a 3-year contract with Munson. So every time you have these negotiations come up, it does there's a lot of issues involved with a union. So it does tend to, just as it does with other unions, lead to some protracted negotiations.
Yeah. I'm just saying, start earlier, guys. Nobody needs to be working without a contract.
It's a challenging time in medicine too. There's a lot changing in the field, and there's a lot of conversations about capacity, staffing shortages, wages. So there's a lot of issues that affect those negotiations.
It'll be interesting to find out what those what the guardrails on AI and technology.
I was curious about that too. Yeah, I know that's a touchy one. I know you and I both watched The Pit.
We did.
Both enjoyed the show The Pit, and that touches on a lot of issues that affect nurses, including AI.
It does.
It's an interesting one. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We have some good news that we can kind of end on here before we get into what we're up to this week. And this is all about Michigan Department of Transportation finishing a project early.
What? Whoever heard of such a thing?
I mean, I know. I don't want to sound like that, because I know that they actually work very hard, and they do finish lots of projects early, but this is a big one, and we are excited.
Yes, yeah. So MDOT had put out a press release this week saying that they are, we're recording on Thursday. I have not yet heard that they are done, but earlier this week they thought they might be done with the US 31 3-mile project as soon as today, Thursday. Wow. So by the time this comes out tomorrow, Friday, it could be completed, or if it's not, it would be wrapping up, I expect, very shortly. That is several weeks ahead of schedule.
Yeah, they were supposed to be done like early July, right?
Yeah, it was supposed to originally be completed by July 2nd. So they've made great progress. I mean, it's almost a month ahead of time. It's almost a $2 million project there in East Bay Township. Obviously, if folks have driven that corridor, I see people post about it every day. It's caused a lot of consternation.
People don't know how to zipper merge.
Don't know how to zipper merge, and it's just, I will die on the hill of it would just make everyone's life. This is kind of the same way I feel about like roundabouts. Like, I know experientially it's hard to zipper merge for some people. They feel like I merged early. Why are you passing me now? Because that's the right thing to do.
Don't merge early.
Please let this be the PSA. Like you don't have to wait in traffic 2 miles ahead of a merge point. It's insane and it's inefficient and it drives people crazy and then everyone is mad at each other.
Right.
And people are blocking people from, it's a whole disaster. I would honestly give my life for people to learn how to zipper merge. It drives me nuts. But it is what it is. So that has really affected the traffic in that corridor, of course. So having that project done, especially ahead of the summer rush, is going to be really helpful.
And they got the sidewalks done, and it's going to look good.
And that light, the new light at 31 at the Traverse City State Park entrance will be in full service. So we'll be changing.
Quick shout out. I just want to shout out to the Grand Traverse County Road Commission. And I know this is Michigan Department of Transportation, so different, but the Grand Traverse County Road Commission has been starting to do these videos on Facebook where they have, one of the people who work there. It's just a selfie video and he's talking about a project and I love them.
Yeah.
Because he's so candid, which we can all really relate with, where he's like, yeah, this sucks, but we're working as hard as we can.
The Road Commission has really done they've done a lot of videos. I also want to give a shout out to Team Elmer's because they do the same thing. Like their social media is very active of like giving like fun updates from the field and stuff. Yeah. And they are working on the US 31 3-mile project. So they get credit for helping that get done so quickly.
When Elmer's is on the case, then it's always done early.
Yeah. They seem to always make good progress.
Yeah. They rock it.
We talked last week on the show, but progress is also, chugging along out in Interlaken as well with some changes in that pattern this week. So,
and your homework this week, friends, is to learn how to zipper merge because Beth does not want to die on that hill. And seriously, I know how it feels where you're going, oh, I'm just going ahead. I'm not going to merge early, but that's what you're supposed to do. Stay in 2 lanes until you have to.
And I see like every year now when a project this is going, every week it's on Overheard and everyone's debating it. And there are the people who are just like, they're like, I don't care if it's right. I won't let anybody pass me. And then you need to be polite and get in line like everybody else. And it's like, that is so inefficient for traffic to move.
Yeah, I would think about it this way. All right. I would think about it like, let's say you have 2 lines to the bathrooms. All right. And there might be only 1 bathroom, but there's 2 lines, okay? And you get in the 2 lines, and then when you get to the point of going to the bathroom, you take turns.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
You
don't all just get in one line for the bathroom.
I don't understand why it's hard.
It makes no
really
sense.
Don't.
If there's 2 lines.
It's a weird stubbornness, and it doesn't matter how many times you tell people, they're just like, I don't want to do it. And I'm like, okay, well.
And I'm really sorry I equated that to bathrooms, but it is why we can't have nice things. And that's the thing. It's called, there's a sign right there that says zipper merge, do not merge. And guess what? Everybody's merging because nobody wants to be the bad guy.
Well, I'm going to be the bad guy, so. I have to.
Someone has to do it. I think that says more about people who don't want to follow the rules because it makes them feel bad.
And then they block the people who block everybody else.
Yeah, no, that's
don't
crazy.
do that. That's also like, that's not just mean, like that's unsafe and you will get ticketed if a cop sees you doing that.
Yeah.
So.
I'm excited about that. All right. Before we close up shop here, anything you're looking forward to? I know it's your birthday. Anything else that you're looking forward to this week?
Yeah. I'm so glad for the summer weather and like working on the farm and enjoying it. I'll do a little plug on Saturday at the Bay Theater. There's a concert with Garnett Rogers, who is an incredible Canadian singer-songwriter. He's like a national treasure of Canada and has been played major concerts, played with big acts all around the world. There's only a few tickets left for that show. He's just got a beautiful, incredible voice. That'll be at the Bay on Saturday night. I think there's a few tickets left, so I recommend that show.
Yeah, I love that. I am going to be planting more bulbs.
Yeah.
I bought a lot of bulbs in the winter. I'm really ashamed to say this. I bought over 500 bulbs.
That's
gladiola bulbs. It's a lot of glads.
It's ambitious. I'll say that.
So I was thinking though, I might start this new project called Give It a Glad or something like that. I don't know. The name, we can workshop it later. But anytime I see just maybe a little piece of dirt, and I'll just put a little gladiola bulb in there.
Why
not?
Like a big Portland and put a bird on it.
Like,
stick a glad in it.
Yeah, put a bird on it. Stick a glad in it. Because I planted 100 of them last week, and first of all, I thought I was going to die. And then I'm like, where else can I put these things? So that is, if you guys all get Glads, all of you that I'm talking to right now, just might get a package of Glads in the mail.
That's amazing.
I don't know why I did it. I think it was winter.
Well, yeah, winter, you need it's like planning for spring, and it makes you feel hopeful to be able to get that.
Well, and I was also like, I've got a big yard, a big patch of land right there. I can put, 500 Glads? And then everyone was like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, girl, your yard, it's big, but like, is it that big?
So
where are you going to put all those Glads, girl?
What are you going to do? We're doing that on Sunday because the weather looks like it's going to be okay on Sunday. And then I'm going to the adult education graduation at Milligan Auditorium on Wednesday, June 10th. I'm super excited about this. This is a program with Northwest Michigan Works and Northwest Ed and like all sorts of different ISDs, kind of come together in the 10 counties. And 49 students, adults, are graduating. They're going to be walking, crossing the stage. That is pretty huge. And, these are folks that have had a lot of barriers, and they have, continued their education in spite of those barriers. So I feel like it's one of the most inspiring things you'll ever see if you go, just to see folks have the chance to talk about their experiences and then walk across that stage. And I think it's really important too, because Milligan is a beautiful place to graduate, and it's it's going to be full of a lot of cool things. So
that's awesome.
Isn't that great?
That's
great.
So
that's 7:00 at Milligan on Wednesday, June 10th. Well, I guess that's it. We didn't have any cake for your birthday. Maybe we'll have that later?
Yeah. Let's get some cake later. That sounds good. Right. As we zipper merge over.
Zipper merge, people. Thank you to Beth Milligan for another great episode of Currently. Be sure to subscribe to the show on all the platforms at crystalfrost.com. Follow us on social media. Subscribe to Currently with Crystal Frost wherever you get your podcasts. And you can watch the full show on YouTube and on Facebook. And Currently is a Compass Local podcast produced in Traverse City, Michigan by Pancake Boy Productions. Big thanks to our lead supporter, West Shore Bank. Start saving today at westshorebank.com.